Support for this program comes from Jazz on the Tube, the Internet's largest collection of free streamable classic jazz videos. From Miles Davis to Louis Armstrong, from Thelonious Monk to Duke Ellington. You'll find it all on jazzonthetube.com. Start your free subscription today.
Hi, and welcome to Jazz Talk, a Jazz on the Tube podcast. My name is Ken McCarthy, and this is where we talk with people who are doing important work that supports and illuminates the music we love. The writers, the scholars, the educators, the filmmakers, the producers, and more. Today we're going to be interviewing Alexis Cole of jazzvoice.org. This is a really interesting project. My friend Jim Igo hit me to it yesterday, and I wanted to let you know about it right away. It's one of the many interesting, promising, creative things that people are doing these days. Welcome, Alexis.
Hi, Ken. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's really great to have you on, and we're going to talk about jazzvoice.org in a second because it really is interesting. It really caught my attention, and I think our listeners are going to find it very interesting, especially if they're interested in becoming better at or getting more involved in jazz vocals. But in the meantime, I'd like to talk a little bit about you. You're based in New York State, in New York, out of the New York City arena, and you're a teacher. Is that right? A professor?
Yes, I teach at SUNY Purchase. We have a wonderful jazz vocal program there. It's focused on small group singing and improvisation.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's great. Purchase has got a lot of interesting art things going on at all times.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's an incredible school to be at if you're any kind of artist, because the interdisciplinary vibe is very cool there, the opportunities for collaboration.
A very good friend of mine who's a dancer came out of that program and just raves about it, and it really, her career's done very, very well. Let's.
This is the 25th anniversary of the jazz program there, and it's really evolved over the years to be a top program.
Oh, fantastic! It's so great. I remember that's a long run, because I can remember being shocked when the New School started a jazz program. I mean, those of us that had been around for a while, just the whole idea. It was great to have academic jazz programs, but it was such a unique idea to see colleges really invest in them. And so 25, and now a lot of universities and colleges obviously have done that. But 25 years is a long run. Yeah.
Well, and now a lot of colleges are moving towards what they're calling a commercial music program. We have a studio composition program that's sort of helping people who are, not into jazz, not into classical music, but kind of want to just be producers and, write songs and make beats and stuff. So, it's evolved even at the next level from that, which I think is good because, maybe some people were coming into the jazz programs really wanting to do commercial music, not really wanting to do jazz. Mm-hmm. So I think it's good to offer them, an option that really meets their needs and not make them be fake jazz singers.
Absolutely.
It's fine with me if not everybody sings jazz standards if they don't like them,
Absolutely. Now, speaking about a real jazz singer, can you remember the first time you experienced a jazz singer, a jazz vocalist, and said, wow, I want to be part of that?
Well, I'm in a little bit of a funny situation because my grandmother was a singer and pianist, and she was really great. I mean, she was not a professional. She was sort of a semi-pro when she was young, mm-hmm. and then she went on to sort of be a traditional housewife. Actually, when she was 19, she was playing in a bar in New York, and a brawl broke out, and a bottle hit her in the eye, and she lost her vision in an eye. Oh. So after that tragic, accident, her mother kind of forbade her from performing, and that was the end of her career. But for the rest of her life, she always went and sang and sat in. And those days in the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of musicians who were sort of retiring in Florida or coming down to snowbirds.
Mm-hmm.
So she would take me out to hear music at her country club, and we'd go all around, North Miami Beach and hear great people that were just down for the winter. And she would sit in with them and stuff. So I kind of grew up hearing music live, hearing, if not 100% jazz, American songbook for sure.
Gotcha.
And then when I got into jazz in high school, I started taking her to hear music with me. And she never really got into like the full-on jazz thing. She'd say, why do they have to make all those alterations? Wasn't the melody good enough the first time? But it was very cool. And actually, a really neat thing happened this summer. I got to reconnect with this guy, Mo Morgan, who had a jazz club in North Miami Beach at that time that I kind of first started going to when I got into jazz. And he showed up at a summer camp I was teaching for Ronnie Ben-Hur. So it was neat to see him again and know, that I had gone to his place with my grandmother and jammed there, some of my first jam session experiences. So that was really cool.
Oh, nice.
But my real start. So I did grow up, listening to my grandmother, listening to Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald and stuff. But when I was in high school, I did a musical theater program at the New World School of the Arts in Miami, which was a great program, and I got great sort of singing technique lessons through that program and acting lessons and everything. So and dance, which didn't help me much, but anyway, I was in my senior year, and I was, preparing to go to college for musical theater and such, which probably would have been a terrible idea since I cannot dance. But there was an ad for a singer for a gig in South Beach, and it was jazz standards. And I really didn't know the repertoire at that point, but I met up with this guy. This was sort of before the internet, and he gave me all these tapes of Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday, and Sarah Vaughan, and he said, this is they were mixtapes because they were the repertoire that he wanted to do on his gigs, and he was looking for a singer to learn his repertoire. So, so I learned all these songs for him, and I remember saying, well, what if I don't get, I was still auditioning, what if I don't get the gig? He's like, well, then all these songs now. and I was like, oh yeah, okay. And through that process, it became very obvious to me very quickly, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do with my voice. I love improvisation. I have a very, my personality sort of skews that way. I like to be excited by something happening in the moment. And, and I have a low voice and a little bit of a husky flavor to my voice. And so it was really a good fit.
And you
especially seeing the direction that musical theater has taken in the last 25 years. I'm really glad that I got saved from that.
Yeah. And you were in college then, or still in high school?
I was still in high school then, yeah. And so we had this great jazz program at my high school run by J.B. Dias, who now heads the curriculum at the Hancock Institute, previously the Monk Institute. And so he brought me in to sing with the combo, and I was able to have some of my first sort of educational jazz experiences there, and he helped me get my audition together. So I auditioned for the New School and Manhattan School and the University of Miami, and I went to Miami for a few years because they gave me a good scholarship, but it wasn't really my thing because they were really into the group singing down there, and I just knew that wasn't for me. I'm just I cannot conform.
Okay.
But it's good, it's good to teach that stuff for musicianship, but I just knew that was never going to be my direction. So then I transferred to William Patterson.
Oh.
And I'll be doing a concert there next month, actually.
Oh, no kidding. Wait, talk about the way.
Yeah, it was a great program.
Are you familiar with their program? Because I'm a bit familiar with it. I think it's a great music program they have there.
Oh, I mean, I'm an alumnus. Of course, I'm familiar. Yeah.
Oh, that's so.
Great. And actually, my first year there was the first year that their singing teacher now, Nancy Morano, was there, and she is actually one of our teachers on jazzvoice.org. So, she's an incredible educator and has a wonderful book about musicianship for the jazz vocalist. So I'm really excited to have her on and to be reconnecting with her. And I've been performing, I've been in contact with William Patterson over the years. I've never lost touch. I've performed for some of their alumni events and fundraisers, and I've done a few concerts in their Jazz Room series, as well as performances. They have a Friday concert series for students. So I've done a few of those over the years as well.
Oh, okay. And for people that don't know, William Patterson is in northeastern New Jersey, not far from the city.
Hmm.
Thinking it's near Mahwah, or what town would we say it's close to?
It's in Wayne, New Jersey,
It's in Wayne, New Jersey.
and it's not too far from Patterson. Yep,
Yep.
it's in the suburbs outside of Patterson.
And it's just an ever-growing,
Very bucolic.
ever-growing, ever-evolving school and ever-evolving music program. Um, well, great. Hey, well, maybe that's a good segue since you mentioned one of the your fellow colleagues in this project, jazzvoice.org. Let's talk about jazzvoice.org, what it is, how you came up with the idea, who's involved, what people can expect from it, what they should, who should be interested in it.
Great. Well, in March, SUNY Purchase, along with most other schools, went to online-only teaching. And over the years, I'd been asked to teach online, Skype lesson or, from people who were my fans that wanted to take a lesson. And I always said, oh, yeah, let's do that, And I never did. I didn't really know how. I didn't know how it would work. I had taken one or two very unsuccessful Skype lessons from somebody, and I just thought, oh, I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had to. And also Zoom, I think, is a good platform that might have had something to do with the increased ease of it. But anyway, so we had to teach online. I had 11 students this semester, and I taught them for the remaining 7 weeks of the semester. And I had great success, I have to say. The students who were, really motivated and doing well in the studio continued to be motivated and doing well in the virtual studio. And the ones that didn't really work too hard, they didn't work too hard. It was pretty much just like real life.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
You saw the same things.
Gotcha.
And some things weren't quite as easy, like, looking at somebody's breathing, not so great. Hearing the real nuance of their technique, their resonance and stuff. But 90% of what I needed to hear, I heard. And what I needed to see, I saw.
Okay.
And I was able to really teach and to see people grow. So I became a total believer in the online lesson thing.
Wow.
Around the same time, I've been thinking about making like an educational video series of just short, short 2 or 3 minute YouTube videos.
Yep.
So I put, the great thing about this coronavirus pandemic, if you don't have coronavirus,
Yep.
is that, you have a lot of free time and you can be sort of led by creative whim if you're the type of person who is creative when you're not depressed about the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I made this educational video series, and somehow the confluence of those two things, my teaching online and this educational video series, I sort of had an aha moment and thought, oh my gosh, I'm home teaching online. All my friends from the Jazz Education Network, vocalists, that teach at universities, they've all had to teach online now. So everybody's pretty much teaching online, and everybody's home because nobody's touring. So I bet a lot of people that wouldn't even have time to teach online would like to teach online right now, even if it's just for the summer or until things get back to full steam ahead, which hopefully they will. So, but I'm kind of a pessimist too, so I kind of think, well, maybe they won't. A lot of clubs might close. Things might not be the same for quite a long time. So I sat on the idea for a few days, and then I just got right to work. And actually, we were talking about my high school, New World School of the Arts. They were offering a grant called the Inspiration Grant they offer every year. This was the COVID-19 edition, where they were going to give the grant to somebody who was putting something together to help the arts during COVID-19. So I thought, wow, this would be a great project for the grant. So I sort of started building the site kind of just to apply for the grant. And then I thought, well, if I get the grant, I'll hire professionals to build the site and I'll make it real. But, and I wrote and submitted the grant. And then, I got furtively to work, making like what I was considering to be kind of like the placeholder site.
Gotcha.
And the more I got into it, the more I realized, like, I don't need to hire professionals to make this site. Actually, like, things are so, kind of accessible these days with website design. So I actually ended up I applied for this grant to make this nice site, and I ended up being able to just do it all myself. like so many things in this pandemic, I discovered that I can do plumbing, and I can, make a shed and do, bake a cake. I never tried baking a cake before. Anyway, so this is just one of the many DIY skills that I've learned during the pandemic being alone. But and then I started asking people, Nancy Morano, my teacher, people that I was close to and who I really admired their teaching, and all these people started saying yes, and now we have 22 people on the roster, including incredible, really well-known singers like Tierney Sutton, Kate McGarry, Cyrilla May, Karen Allison. So it's really and educators that you haven't heard of, but that are just as known in the education field as those performers are to the greater public.
Sure, and let's talk about what. So it's a portal, to use an internet technical internet term. It's a portal for jazz vocal educators.
Exactly right. So it's sort of like like I'm kind of like an agency for booking jazz voice lessons on the one hand, and then it's funny, jazzvoice.com was not available, which I think I would have preferred, but I felt like when I got the jazzvoice.org was available, amazingly. So I felt like, I really want to live up to my .org designation and make this a place for jazz vocal education. So as I was coming up, fomenting the idea, I just thought, what can we offer to all these students who are stranded at home, the opportunity to go to jam sessions, to be in person learning from teachers, to be in college, learning, and there's a million semi-professional, and aspiring professional adult jazz singers as well. And I thought, what can we offer them? So I put together a masterclass series that you can attend for just $15 a month. You can attend all the masterclasses for free. And started asking the different teachers and also some people who were, very iconic that weren't available to do private lessons, like Johnny O'Neill and Catherine Russell and Sheila Jordan are a few people who are not teaching private lessons on the site but did agree to do master classes. So I'm bringing this education to them. So that's a pretty, even if you can't afford, if you've lost your job and you can't afford to take private lessons, which are around $100 to $125 a session, almost everybody can afford $15. And for that, you get 4-hour and 15-minute master classes sessions per month. So It's a pretty good value and a great opportunity for the community to come together, around what we love and keep ourselves focused on the joy of making music and the craft of. And now's a great time to be practicing too. I mean, if you come to a session and you hear something that interests you that you want to practice, a lot of people have some extra time right now.
And they also have these great guest appearances by this. You got some pretty big heavy hitters in your guest list.
Yeah. So I'm doing the first masterclass this Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Which is June 20th. Yep, and that's kind of to see how it goes. I've done some group sessions before, but this will be the first masterclass on jazzvoice.org. And then on the June 28th, we have Cyrilla May doing one. And then after her is, I'm not sure, Johnny O'Neill on July 9th.
Yep.
And then Karen Allison and John Crew and...
you got Jane Monheit?
I think. Of course, yes. And Jane Monheit. That's the 23rd of July. So I'm really excited. And I have people lined up in September and October too. In August. I don't want to.
Oh, great.
I don't want to pick the times until we see where most of the people are subscribing from, so that we can make it at a time that they can come. We're doing the classes at different times during the day throughout the month, so that people in different time zones can, be there. We have already some people, joining the site from Japan, especially. And we have, something I didn't mention, one other added benefit is that the site is available in different languages. So if you're looking at the site in Italy, you're going to see it in Italian. If you're looking in Japan, you see it in Japanese.
How?
And then we also offer, isn't that cool? It's magic.
How did you do that?
And human translators. The site, it offers Google Translate, so I translated the site myself by clicking a button, and then I had human translators go through and fix it. So it wasn't starting from scratch, but it really is amazing. And so and it can tell by your IP address what country you're in, and then it just shows you the site in your language. And you can switch languages up at the top. There's like a flag drop down.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited about that. And then, but then even cooler is that we offer the services of these singer translators on the site. So if you are not great at English, you can, because it's another level of language mastery to be able to take a voice lesson in English.
Sure.
There's a lot of nuance and imagery and conceptual ideas that might not, that are not like, I'll have what she's having for breakfast.
Yeah, right.
Or like,
where is the bank?
Address,
yeah,
it's about my command of different languages.
Right.
So anyway, so these translators are all singers. I've selected them from vocalists that I knew and some people who are former students from my teaching in Holland and my teaching in New York. So they all know the language of a jazz voice lesson and the the technical terms, and they can translate them into their language. So you can book you book your lesson and the translator simultaneously, so that everybody shows up on the same at the same time on the same call.
Wow. So you have this mix of the.
Cool, right?
What's that?
I said it's cool, right?
Oh, it's very cool. I think it gets cooler the more you tell about it. So you sort of have two levels going on. You have the $15 a month access to the master classes, 4 hours a month. Is that right? 4 hours of content a month?
Exactly, yeah.
Then you have these great guests.
I guess it's 5 because they're 75-minute classes.
Oh,
5 hours of master classes.
5 hours of training for $15 a month. And then you've got these great guest speakers or great guest teachers. And then if somebody wants a private relationship, you help them find the right teacher for them.
Yeah, and it's actually, one of the problems with booking lessons, live and virtually, is, there's a lot of back and forth. Oh, I'd like to have a lesson with you, Alexis. Oh, that's great. When's good for you? Oh, I'm pretty free. When's good for you? And then, if that's going on by email, a week has elapsed already,
right.
Before you figure out when it's good for both of you. But the wonderful thing on the site is that the teachers give me their availability in advance, and they're able to control that availability with just a linked Google Calendar. And so when you go on the site, if you want to book a lesson with Surreal May, you just go onto her page and click book a lesson, and you see her available times, and you just click on one, and voila, you have booked a lesson. You don't need to go back and forth and ask questions. And I mean, you're welcome to ask questions. There's every person's page has a contact form.
Yes.
That you can contact that teacher if you have a question. It goes right to them, or you can contact me through the site email. But generally, we've taken that step away. So it's been really a relief for my own students. I've had them all booking me through the site for a few weeks now to be like kind of beta testing it. And it's amazing. They just go on the site and press a button and the lesson is booked. And I get an email notification, and they do too, that has the Zoom link in it. And so it couldn't be easier to use.
Great. And you're using Zoom?
I'm using Zoom, but I'm letting some teachers use Skype, and so I'm letting every teacher decide what they want to use.
Gotcha. It depends on.
But I'm using Zoom.
Yeah.
But they get a notice, from each teacher, an invitation to the conference, on whatever platform.
So you've become kind of a technical wizard in putting all this together. I mean, this is a lot of moving pieces you've got going, translating and online scheduling.
I tell you what, I impress myself every day.
Well, it's a great.
It's not. It's just having free time and being curious and wanting things to work, and not being afraid of learning new things. I think that's been the main takeaway from this: is that when you have time, you can learn new things and not be intimidated. And when I wanted to do, I bought a washing machine, and I wanted to get installed, and no one was around to do it for me. And my dad said, "I think you can do it. I have, I'll talk you through it. I think you could do it." And I learned plumbing, and it's like, wow,
awesome.
And this is the same, it's the same. I also got the program Logic, that's for recording, home recording.
Oh yeah,
I got that program. But usually I wouldn't have time to look at it enough to learn how to use it. But now I have time, and I'm like, wow, now I can do home recording. That's a whole other thing. So it's really. Yes, it's been great for learning how to learn this period.
Well, that's something that I think a lot of musicians are actually good at, and it's one of the things people, it's one of the million reasons we should have music education in our schools and take it very seriously.
Great point.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
music's a craft, and it's a, it's a very precise craft, really. I mean, there's a lot of creative, latitude, obviously, in creating music. But when you actually get together with a group and you're going to perform, it's very precise, and it requires a lot of skill and a lot of training and a lot of dedication and discipline and seriousness. And then there's a lot to learn, learning tunes and remembering the tunes and learning new music and taking your instrument, including your voice, to higher and higher levels. I mean, it's an endless self-education process, and you're expressing that through this technical direction. And what's also interesting to me about what you've done too is this is a great model for anybody who wants to teach music, or anybody who wants to help organize musicians to teach. Because not everybody's going to be in a position you are to organize and to create basically you've created a platform and a portal for other teachers and musicians to plug into, and you're focused on vocals, which makes perfect sense. But somebody else could take this idea. I mean, let's say somebody wanted to do something similar, could they hire you as a consultant to set up help them set up a portal for another kind of music project? Because you've learned a lot. You've learned an awful lot, and
Yeah. I mean, I guess the thing that I felt like made me uniquely, able to do this project is the lifetime of connections, that I've been making over my career, and also the same skill sets that I use to promote a concert, I can use to promote the site, and the same. I also make a lot of my own little graphics and do little video editing. So all the little different hats that I've had to wear to promote my own career, and make my own career happen, are now in service of this. Plus the credibility that I have as a musician. I have 11 albums that, I've been on the scene for a long time, and, people know me, and when I call them up, they don't blow me off. they write me back, and, they're interested because I'm a person that they know and respect, and I've, that's perhaps what I feel is like the greatest achievement of my career is having the respect of my peers, and the people who I respect and appreciate so much. So it's not just the technical know-how, but the sort of professional collateral that I've built up that has enabled me to make this happen. So I'm really grateful for that.
Gotcha. And the website is jazzvoice.org. And just to recap some of the features of it, you can start with a subscription at just $15 a month and get 5 hours of fresh training every month. And then we have these great master performer educators who are clocked in. They're going to be showing up at various times. Catherine Russell, Jane Monheit, just amazing. Johnny O'Neill.
Yeah.
And then, as if that weren't enough, if English is not your first language and you need some help with some of the fine points of vocalese instruction in English, you can get a translator to be part of the educational experience. I mean, it's a very well-rounded thing you're doing.
Thank you. Well, I hope, there's a lot of interest in vocal jazz over the world. And, I just got back from a tour of Japan, actually. And, I have a lot of Japanese students who, when they come to New York, they want to take a lesson with me. I've released a few albums, in Japan, so I have a good following there. And, I just think that bringing the world together around this common passion is also sort of a higher calling of the site, trying to create connections between people across the world.
Well, the internet's done a great thing in making all kinds of text material about jazz available, and of course now with YouTube, anybody from Louis Armstrong to Joe Zawinul, you can see everybody, which I can still remember. I'm old enough to remember that if you wanted to see jazz video, you had to go to the Museum of Broadcasting in New York City and go to the librarian.
Oh, wow.
And they would give you a videotape, which you would bring to a booth. And that's the first time I ever saw Lester Young and Billie Holiday. I'd never seen them. I'd seen photographs, but I'd never seen them, And I'll never forget that day I walked in there and popped the tape in. I guess it was that famous CBS thing they did back in the 50s or early 60s. I guess it had to be 50s. And just transformative experience to see them, not just to hear them, but to see them. So the internet did that for us. And now this next step is connecting aspiring musicians with people that are further down the line, that can help them along the way. We've always had that, but I think the current situation has created a new emphasis on that. And I would prefer that this never have had happen, so I'm not going to sing the praises of silver linings. No. However, you know what?
Right.
This is a silver lining, right? This if it
we don't have a choice.
Yeah, we don't have a choice, right?
Yeah. And we don't have a choice about COVID. We can only choose how we respond.
Yeah, and
to the hand that we're dealt as a society.
Yeah, and this is a beautiful thing because I can see it. A lot of people who otherwise never would have had exposure, because if you're living in Japan or if you're living in Kansas or in maybe Buenos Aires you can get everything done, but some place that doesn't have a scene, that may not have educators at hand, how are you going to learn? And
also, Americans are uniquely poised, in the world. I'm not saying anything to discount the native jazz singers of other countries, but it is a uniquely American music at that it's mostly sung in English.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was created from the African experience in America.
Yeah.
And so in a way, even there's a great jazz scene in Japan, no doubt about it, but there's still a desire among students to study with an American teacher for the native English sound, and also most people in America grew up hearing syncopation and swing, even if they weren't 100. Well, actually, that's more true in Japan now. You walk into 7-Eleven in Japan and they have jazz playing.
Oh, really?
Jazz is much more omnipresent in Japan. Yes, it really is.
That's great.
But anyway, so people are, even if people are able to access teachers and education in a scene all over the world, there's still kind of a premium on studying with American teachers. So I want to make them available without people having to break the bank and come to America. They can just study virtually. And the other piece of this is that all the teachers were suddenly teaching online because of the pandemic, but also so many other people are either taking classes online for school or remotely working from home. So people are really used to being on Zoom, calls and other virtual platforms in a way that they never were before too. So I think that this is sort of a really of the moment idea, but I don't think it's going to end with the pandemic. I think people are going to be excited about this. Or I think it's cat's out of the bag.
No, this is a.
I know it is for me.
This is
like my family got together for for Easter on Zoom, and it was. I don't think we would ever not do that again if we couldn't be together. I think we would always Zoom in with the person who couldn't be there. It just was so satisfying to see everybody and be together in that way.
Wow! Yeah, of course.
So, I think it's changed everything.
Yeah, for some reason I'm thinking of Joey Alexander, and here's this kid in Indonesia, and because he had, thanks to his dad and his dad's record collection, but still, because he had access to resources, he was able to develop into a jazz musician in Indonesia. How improbable was that? So I have a feeling with jazzvoice.org and similar undertakings that people really anywhere in the world, if they have a love for the music, it doesn't matter where they live or even what their background is. Maybe nobody around them knows jazz. Maybe they don't have any jazz in their family. Maybe there's no jazz in their town. But it won't really matter because they'll have this connection, and now they can have a direct connection to a teacher. So I think it's just a great thing. So the website, again, is jazzvoice.org. Definitely check it out, and not only check it out, but tell people about it. That's the important thing. Let people know this exists so that they can tell others, because it's really a great thing you're doing, Alexis. It's at $15 a month. It's really interesting. Historically, a lot of music was taught using what they called correspondence courses back in the 20s and 30s.
I took piano lessons like that when I lived on a cruise ship.
Oh, did you?
With Charlie Banacas, lessons by mail. Yeah.
Okay.
I would record my lesson and send it back to him, and he would record his feedback and give me the next lesson. And, so on and so forth.
So it is a tried and true thing, and this instant online access has made it even more powerful. I learned something interesting. This is a guy who's not as well known as he should be, but he wrote the arrangement for "In the Mood," and he was the arranger for a lot of Count Basie's early stuff that helped him break out. And his name's Eddie Durham. He's passed away. But he grew up in a little town way out in the middle of nowhere in Texas. I mean, he was a cowboy. It's an interesting guy. He was part Irish, part African American. Grew up speaking Spanish, didn't learn English till he was 14. But he and his brother, primarily his brother, learned how to arrange music. And Eddie was one of the great arrangers ever. I mean, unfortunately, we're doing everything we can to educate people about him. You wouldn't have jazz without this guy Eddie Durham, and he and his brother learned how to arrange music from correspondence courses from the mail, right? I mean, so what can
amazing.
Yeah? So when somebody's got the heart for it and the desire for it, they just need a little bit of help, and it looks to me like jazzvoice.org is going to be a lot of help. So, guys, everybody check it out. Definitely share it. Jazz fans, tell them about it. Tell them to tell their friends. This is a good thing, and we want to see it thrive.
Right. And, people don't have to be jazz singers to participate in the master classes. If you're just a fan of Jane Monheitz and you want to see what she has to say about singing, come to her master class. And same thing, with Surreal and all these other teachers. So people have been like, oh, I don't know if I could sing for them. You don't have to sing for them. Most of the people in the class are just going to be watching, and they'll be able to ask any questions through the chat. But the singers are going to be pre-selected. And if people do want to apply to sing, they can. There's an email, form on the site where people can apply for singing in different people's master classes. But don't be intimidated if you're just a fan or a layperson. Jazzvoice.org is for you too. If you like to have a little bit of the inside baseball of what jazz singers are thinking about and how they talk about singing and different ideas about interpretation or improvisation. So I think it's going to be a great thing for fans too to get a little bit of an insider understanding of what they might enjoy.
I think I'm so glad you brought that up because that's a theme that we cover a lot, and I haven't really spoken about it recently, and I always like the opportunity to talk about it, which is that there's this artificial divide between artist and audience, and it's practical and helpful and useful. Somebody's got to be on stage, somebody's got to be sitting and listening, but sometimes especially on the audience side, it gets a little too calcified, and sometimes audience members feel like the quote technical aspects of jazz are beyond them, that they it's just, in other words, they can't know anything because it's all too hard. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. Even learning one little thing could change and revolutionize your appreciation of the music. I liken it to if you know just a little bit about cooking. You don't have to be a gourmet chef, but if you've ever tried to cook anything, it makes you a little more appreciative when you're eating somebody else's cooking, And I think learning, sitting in on a master class, even if and your point is really well taken, even if you're not a singer, and maybe you don't even aspire to be a singer, but you love jazz singing. What could be better than to be in the kitchen, watching the food being made, and learn a little bit about that. And I guarantee, as much as you love jazz today, if you have a little bit of knowledge like that, you're going to love it even more because there's just more to experience in it. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, this could be a whole revolution in because the jazz fan is a very educated fan, right? Typically, they know a lot about music.
Yeah.
But sometimes, but there are members of the audience that feel intimidated, and my thing is, please don't be intimidated by the technicalities of it, and but it's up to us as presenters of the music, as educators, to break down that wall and to make it accessible and friendly and easy and stress-free, to get that taste and get a little bit of a sense that, I could learn a few of the mechanics of the music, and then it will help me as a fan appreciate it more. And who knows, you might even find yourself inspired to become a musician. It has happened before. You never know. Well, great, Alexis.
Especially with singing, the bar is kind of is a little bit, the bar to entry is a little bit lower because almost everybody can sing, and so it's, I do find that singers come from a place of, they might have been fans for years, but finally decided to take the mic in an open mic or, see what they can do. So it's really, vocals is a great entry point to starting in the music.
Great. And what a beautiful thing that would be, to provide that path for somebody. So everybody, again, jazzvoice.org. This is for everybody, not just for singers. And by the way, I imagine professional singers will be signing up for this as well to take advantage of access.
Yes, I've already had the honor of a few wonderful singers who I admire signing up for the subscription. I mean, I think they're partly doing it to support the new endeavor too, and to support me because they're my friends and peers. But and we'll be building the site over time too. So if there's a teacher you don't see there, don't feel like that they've been intentionally excluded. But we had to start with a certain number of teachers, and we're going to build onto that over time.
Great. So you really, besides this portal for teachers and the master class, you're really kind of creating a community of people that just love jazz singing and jazz vocals.
That's my hope.
Yeah, well, it's great.
It's making me happy every day.
That's great, and we're just in the.
That's a great thing. If it folded tomorrow and nothing happened with it, I would say, all this effort was worth it because it kept me out of trouble and kept me engaged in something all this time. So, and kept me from, being sad about all my touring getting canceled. So it's been such a blessing to have something wonderful to focus on and feel like I'm helping other people and building community. That's been a real blessing to me.
Well, these things always start small and they snowball, but it takes a while, for that. Every time the snowball turns, it gets a little bit bigger and then bigger and bigger and bigger. But sometimes it takes a while to get that part of it going. So I'm hoping that you'll persist with it because this is a brilliant idea. It's needed. When people hear about it, look at me. I heard about it from Jim yesterday. I had to talk to you immediately about it. And so now, if all goes well, we'll have a few thousand jazz fans all over the world hearing about it. And guys, I'm counting on you to share this because this is a good thing. And we want to share all the good things that are going on. So we've been talking with Alexis.
Thanks so much, Ken.
Oh, you're really welcome. We've been talking with Alexis Cole, who is the founder and director of jazzvoice.org.
We hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, please share it. That's how we grow. And remember to subscribe to jazzonthetube.com, the internet's largest collection of free, streamable, classic jazz videos.